The first Grape Festival, I actually remember I was probably 6 years old, and I was with my nonna. She had me by the hand, and she took me down, and it looked like the biggest thing in the world. And it was very small back in my day. We didn't have, it seems a lot more commercial now, and I understand why. But then it was not. It was more of a celebration for the grape picking season being over and it being successful and everybody celebrating.
My favorite memories of the Grape Festival is when everyone comes back for it and you get to visit with them. Well, you get to sit around and reminisce about the old days of the festival and how it has changed and grown.
The main thing I can remember is of having ice cream stands and hamburger stands, and we used to get people in there that had music and would sing Western songs, which I loved very much.
Back in my younger days when I was a kid, we couldn't wait for the Grape Festival. We would go do the rides. I wasn't a big rider, but I loved the games. I loved the little guns, the little BB gun that you would shoot and knock the targets out. There were other little, where you would throw baseballs and knock the little dolls over, knock the bottles over and stuff like that. My favorite one of all was called the crane, the shovels. And you would bring them and you would crank them and you so much and you'd come over and it'd come down over an item and you'd try to get down and get the jaws to grab it up, pick it up. I was just fascinated with that. They have the Queen Concordia every year, and I have 3 sisters, and 2 of the 3 were queens for the Grape Festival.
I'd have to say my favorite memory from the Grape Festival is when I was crowned queen. My dad, he works at Mercy Hospital, so he got to be the speaker for the Grape Festival, so that meant that he also got to crown me. So it was really fun just to also be crowned Grape Festival queen, but also be crowned by my father.
My mom was Queen Concordia back when she was in high school, and then my great aunt Philomene, my grandpa's sister, was also queen. And so I had to run for queen, and that is what gave me the determination to win as well. I wanted to be that 3rd generation, and so I had to carry on. Even though my last name wasn't Artemani, I still had to carry on the the Artemani tradition, and so I did. It was very hard work, but we met a lot of people outside of Tontitown as well, because it's very hard work to run for queen and sell tickets for the truck.
I had 3 older sisters, so I got to stay around a little bit longer because I could go home when they did. They had a dance every year in the basement of the schoolhouse. And they'd have a band in there. And I would go hang around there. I couldn't go down there, but I'd hang up at the top and look in the window and watch them dance for an hour or 2, and that was a pretty big deal.
We never went on vacations or nothing like that. There was 7 of us kids. And there wasn't such a thing as, taking a vacation. You lived on a farm. And this was our only entertainment, for the year. Back then, we got enough money we could ride one ride. Or we could do one thing, ride one ride or play one game. We only got to come up one night because my mother used to work, so us kids, we didn't come up, and Dad wasn't in much for taking you something like this.
My parents, when I was young, I can remember my parents along with Judy and Clarence Chola, Brenda and Larry J-Row, and Wanda and Joe Penalto would work in the hamburger stand. There was a hamburger stand out on the grounds, and they would make hamburgers out there, and those were the best hamburgers I ever had. They were really good, but then they don't have that anymore.
The youth group, we always did the fun run and the grape run on Saturday morning of the festival, and so I was involved with that as well.
One thing I remember, they'd have the contest for anybody that smoked cigars, and sometimes it'd be 7 or 8 men that would line up on the stage and they give them a cigar, And for a amount of time, say if it was 5 minutes or 4 minutes or 3 minutes, they had a certain amount of time that they could smoke that cigar down to where it was gone. And some of them left that table pretty wobbly because of, you know, the smoke, you know, the nicotine and the smoke. And that kind of amazed me because how they could do that, I could never understand because I've never smoked.
Going to the Grape Festival was a real treat. Okay, because we lived so close. You know, we just live a half mile from the church. So, you know, in the morning we'd hop on our bicycles and go pick up trash. And you know, right before the Grape Festival started, we'd all get together, me and my brothers. We'd all get together and make us a little trash picking up stick. Drive a nail into you know, a little 1x1 board, and you know, so you wouldn't have to bend over to pick up paper cups. Just snap them, put them in the bag. And we didn't have a whole lot of money. Us kids didn't have a whole lot of money, but we got free tickets for picking up trash. So we'd use those tickets to go ride the rides and to have a good time.
My father, for many, many, many years, was the one that got the carnival for the Grape Festival. And it was Stumbo's Carnival, same one for years. And it was a great time. The Grape Festival started not at the location it is now, but where Barrington is, it was on. There was they owned a small. There was a small building on that property, and it had some land, and that's where the picnic started. And it was right across the street from our house uptown. And everybody that came to the picnic came to our house for a drink of water. They used our well. And the only thing they had was a Ferris wheel, and from the very beginning, the men in Tontitown had a hamburger booth where they made hamburgers.
White River Red was the little gypsy woman who had the carnivals back in that day. And she would come somewhere about from Winslow is where she used to live. And she would bring in, it was just intriguing to me to see this gypsy woman. I would just watch her, you know, just watch and listen to her as she was calling in people to her shell games and the little carnival ride she had. But she was a part of that for many, 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 many years. Just those, and seeing all the people, and you would see, I know the older people especially looked forward to those who had moved away from Tontitown. It was like a reunion. The Grape Festival was like a reunion. People would come from their faraway homes, and that's where you saw everybody again. And even in my day, that was true.